Hey there, welcome to my workshop today. Today I'm going to show you how I de-stress a brand new piece of wood. This is a really good technique if you can't find old boards to use for any sort of project you're doing, especially for like country or primitive crafts. Follow me as I turn this board into a very rustic looking board. The first thing you'll need is some tools. Now I usually try to gather some different tools, things that have different shapes to them that I can pound into the wood, because what we're going to be doing is using them as hammers on the wood. I'll also use an angle grinder with a Z-grit flat disc. Some people call it a tiger palm. My next one is a homemade paddle, and this is kind of an idea of a hammer. What I've done is I've taken a board and put several screws in it at random positions and just screwed it onto this hammer handle so that I can pound into my board. So let's get started. First thing I do is I start with my board and just sit it there, and I take this. Now what this is going to do is basically just hit your board. Once you've done that, take it, scrape it. Now what we've just done is created fake looking wormholes, and also just some distress marks. And also take some tools. You don't have to use the exact same thing, but this is what I tend to do. And take the corner of that and just kind of dig it in there. This one here for a different shape. You know, just whatever you have. The next step can be a little tricky. What you're going to do is hold this board, and with your angle grinder, take it pretty hard into the wood, just like this. Now, I've done this quite a few times, so I hold the board with my hand. You might want to put it in some sort of vise, or even do something where you hold it up against something and do it like that, so that you don't accidentally hurt yourself. Once I've done that, that's primarily the most distressing I'll do on that. And as you can see, roughed up the edges. And then by taking this in this manner, you kind of put fake saw marks in it. And of course, gouging it also works really well as well. And the very last thing I do before I go onto the staining process is I run a little light sand over it. And all that's going to do is get rid of the real big burrs. Now there are two different ways that I like to do the staining process, and I'll split this in two and actually show you the difference between my two different ways. But both ways start with staining this with a really dark stain, and I use Special Walnut by Minwax for my primary stain all the time. With half of this now taped off, I'll do my first technique. I'm going to use orange spray paint. You can use any color you want, black, brown, whatever color tint you want your old board to have. This is the way to do it. So now you just take your spray paint and don't don't be light on it. Just go heavy on it. Okay. Now don't even let it dry. Take a brush. I prefer use one of these really cheap throwaways because you're going to end up throwing it away, and you don't want to waste a really good brush. And just get down on it real hard and pull it out. Okay? And it's all up to you. You're basically removing the paint that you just sprayed. It's all up to you on how hard you want to do it. I'm going to kind of stick with something like that. I want to get my stain to show through. So there you have one technique. Turn this over. This is my other technique, and this is my more favorite and preferred technique. I'll just take some black paint. This is flat interior. Very cheap paint. This is actually, I think, the cheapest that Valspar sells. And since I'm only doing a little bit, I'm going to take my brush and just get some paint this way. Don't need a whole lot. In fact, very, very little. What we're going to do is kind of create a cheap stain. Next step is to add just a little bit of water. About that same amount, and then just mix it up. What you're looking for is something that's going to do that. You want it to run. You don't want it to just drip off. So that's perfect. And we got our stain. Take this and brush it on this side. Or brush it on your wood, really. Once again, you can use any color that you prefer, but in this process you want to act relatively fast. Okay, once that is on there, you want to take your rag, don't let it dry, and wipe really hard. Okay. Once that dries, you'll be all good to go. And there you have it. Two different techniques to making a brand new board look old. One using spray paint, one using a can of paint watered down to make a stain-like material. And the benefit with this one is that you really get into all of the wood grain marks that we made, and also the wormholes, so they really stand out. This one doesn't stand out as much, but it's something that works, especially if you're wanting to actually add a good color and do it quick, because I did this about 10 minutes ago and it's already dry, and this is already dry too, so you can immediately start working on something else. You don't have to sit there and just let it dry. I didn't really let the stain dry, I didn't let anything dry, I just kept going. So there's many benefits to this. You can use it in many projects, but one project that I've been working on is making cabinet doors for my kitchen. My wife really likes country decor, primitive decor, anything that's along those lines, and so we decided to make these. This is 3 separate ones glued together so that the joint looks very bold. It stands out because of the technique we used. I hope you enjoyed this video and hope you found it useful for your future projects. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.